What's up guys? So in this video I'm gonna show you how to flush the cooling system in your Mazda Rx8 so that it goes from looking like this to looking like this. And here are all the things that you're gonna need. I'll also link all the products I'll use in this video in the description so you can check them out at any point of the video. But first, if you're new to this channel and like to watch Rx8 tips, awesome DIYs, maintenance videos, ownership videos, and much more, then definitely consider subscribing. The first thing you're gonna need are a couple of liters of distilled water. I personally like to go with 30 liters or 8 gallons because it's best to have more than less. A bottle of antifreeze. Now here it gets tricky, so let me explain. The Rx8 uses green coolant and the preferred one to use is FL22. Now the question is, if FL22 isn't available in your country, can you use something else? Of course you can. Color doesn't matter. You can go blue or green, but not red. As long as it has all the specifications that the FL22 has, meaning it has to have glycol inside and must not contain alcohol, methanol, borate or silicates. I'll post the specifications in the description so you can check them out before you buy it. Next up, a bottle of radiator flush, a screwdriver, a 14mm socket, a wrench, a funnel, preferably smaller than this, and 2 drain pans. Before we start, make sure that the front of your car is jacked up and on jack stands. The next thing is that you want your car to be cold, because if it's hot, the cooling system is under pressure and the water inside is very hot. Make sure your reservoir cap is on, otherwise coolant will splash everywhere. So let's start by going under the car and near the oil pan. Here you'll see this bolt that holds coolant inside the engine. So let's put our 14mm socket on the wrench and loosen it up. Slide your drain pan underneath it, start unscrewing it with your hand and take it out. Now you can take the cap off to increase the flow of coolant. Just be aware that it can get a little bit messy. But don't worry, just grab a hose and clean away all the spilled liquid. Next up, put the bolt back in and tighten it down with your wrench. Now take out your pan with coolant and put it on the side. Take your cap and screw it back on. Take your flathead screwdriver and unscrew the bolt located in this hole. Take out the bolt and go and release the cap to increase the flow of coolant. Now we can see that the inside of our reservoir is completely empty, so now it's time to finally clean the whole system. Put a bolt back in the radiator and tighten it, but don't over tighten it, because if you do, the head of the bolt will snap and you'll have to buy a new one. If this happens, I'll post a link when you can buy a replacement. And now take out the drain pan. And to dispose of it, simply use a funnel to pour it in a bigger bottle and then take it to your local recycling center. Next up, put a funnel in your reservoir and start pouring in your distilled water. I personally like to put in 5 liters of distilled water, then add the coolant flush and fill the rest with distilled water. When the reservoir won't suck in any more water, take out the funnel and pour it without. And if you see that no bubbles come out and the water doesn't get sucked in anymore, it's time to finally turn on the engine. So make sure that your car is in neutral and start it up. After starting it up, you'll see the system sucking coolant and bubbles will come out. And it may overflow a bit, but nothing to worry about. After 1 minute, you'll see that the reservoir has emptied. So now it's time to pour in some more distilled water. When you'll notice that it doesn't suck any more water, put the cap back on. Go inside the car and blast the heat at full power. And now leave the car working for about 15 minutes. While waiting, you can check the water temperature to make sure it doesn't overheat. If it does, it means you have trapped air in the system. After 15 minutes, you can turn off your engine. The car is currently very hot, so let it cool down for about 30 to 45 minutes before resuming work. Okay, now we can safely take off our cap and check the coolant. Here we can see that some coolant was drained and we didn't overheat, so give yourself a big high five. Put the cap back on and repeat the drain process. First, drain the engine coolant and then the radiator coolant. And we can see that the coolant is super clean, so I don't have to flush it again. If your fluid is still not crystal clear, you can repeat the flushes until it is. Before we start filling it, I like to put another pan under the radiator and just pour 3 liters of distilled water to flush all the debris that might have been left inside, so that we have a super clean system to pour in our coolant. After that, make sure you tighten the bolt on the drain pan and the radiator bolt, but be careful not to over tighten the radiator bolt. Now we can check how our coolant mutated during this process. The dark green was my initial coolant, the light green was the flush, and the clear one was the last one where I poured 3 liters of distilled water. Next up, it's time to pour in the coolant. Where I live, temperatures don't get below -6 degrees Celsius. So I'll add 3 liters of coolant and top the rest with distilled water. Depending on how hot it is where you live, you want to mix the coolant accordingly. You'll have a chart on the bottle for reference. The goal when you're filling it up is that you want the coolant to be on this point here, approximately 2 centimeters above the line, because the car is still warm a little bit and the reservoir must have some space in it in case the coolant expands. When it won't suck any more water, start your car, blast the heat and give it a couple of gentle revs so that all the air gets out of the system. Let the car run for a maximum of 2 or 3 minutes, and if the coolant doesn't move anymore, you can put a cap back on and take the car for a ride. When driving, you want to make sure that the car does not overheat, so check your temperature gauge and make sure it stays in the middle. Okay, and I'm finally back, and we can see that my temperature gauge is still in the middle, so that means that our cooling system has no air inside and the job is done. Now you want to go and check the cooling level of your car, and since it's hot, we're gonna make sure that the level is 2 centimeters above the plastic line. If it's not, you can wait for it to cool down and add some more. And with that, you have successfully flushed the cooling system of your Rx8, which is recommended to do every 2 years. So if you want to try it yourself, every item I've used in this video will be linked in the description. And if you have any comments regarding this video, feel free to post them in the comment section below. So guys, if you like this video, make sure to give it a big thumbs up. And if you want to see more videos like this, hit the subscribe button, and I will see you guys in my next video.